Hi everyone, this is Amla Reddy, Executive Editor of Commercial Integrator, and I'm delighted to be joined today by John Caswell and Adam Bailey of Carousel Digital Signage as part of our Emergency Communications Deep Dive, featured in the January-February edition of CI plus SSI, as well as on both websites as part of our Deep Dive Spotlight. Welcome, John and Adam. So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
So, can you both talk a little bit about your roles and titles at the company?
Sure, I can start. So I'm Adam Bailey. I'm the Strategic Technical Account Manager here, Senior Strategic Technical Account Manager here. So I'm the primary contact and trusted advisor for all our enterprise accounts. So those are kind of the larger accounts that their support contract includes a white glove service, I should say. So really, they're more hands-on. I help them with rollouts, support issues, really anything related to Carousel software integrations. Sometimes it gets into network stuff in the environment. And I work a lot extensively with higher ed and corporate.
Thanks, Adam. And my name is John Caswell. I'm the sales director for Carousel Digital Signage and responsible for all of our U.S. and Canadian sales operations. In that role, I have both a leadership role and a kind of player coach role. So I cover a territory myself, and I'm responsible for delivering numbers within those territories and working with our prospective and existing clients to best utilize Carousel Cloud. So I've been with Carousel around 4 years now and have about 22 years career in SaaS solution selling, hardware selling, primarily to corporations and higher education entities.
Thank you both so much for the wonderful introductions. So, going into our topic today, can you give a little insight into how Carousel Digital Signage supports campus safety in different environments, especially for higher education?
Certainly. One of the primary methods is that Carousel is able to accept a common alerting protocol or a CAP push from an emergency notification system. Now, it's not as a replacement for that system, but to complement those investments that have been made by institutions, many of them higher ed, but certainly corporate institutions as well, that have invested heavily in emergency notification systems. And the ability to yoke those to your digital signage really extends their ability, sort of that final foot or that final mile within an institution. So this integration and the use of digital signage as an extension of an emergency notification system is seen as exceedingly valuable because it also complements not just the use of digital signage as part of your internal communication strategy for an organization, but it yokes that digital signage now to actual student or employee safety. And since those solutions that institutions have invested in are not inexpensive, they deliver quite a bit, it's really a force multiplier to take a solution that you have and yoke it to a signage solution to basically garner the most value out of both of those solutions as you can.
Oh, and Adam, would you like to add anything to that?
I think John just summed it up really well. Yeah, we really aren't a replacement for those solutions. We integrate with any emergency alert provider that can send that CAP data.
Great. So both of you mentioned that CAP. Can you talk a little bit about how CAP compliant integration actually works? Like, what is its scale and reach? Can you talk about that in detail?
Yeah, I can a little bit. Yeah, so we kind of talked about this a little bit. CAP is a global emergency alert standard. It's used by government authorities to issue trusted alerts to various systems. It's all standardized so that it can be ingested by different solutions. The way it works on the technical side in Carousel is the provider will send an HTTP post, so like an API command containing that CAP data in XML. So that's a language to unique URL that Carousel has set up. So it's a unique secure URL with a token embedded into that URL. and then that triggers an alert in Carousel, and that alert can contain data that's sent by the provider. So if, for example, it's a tornado warning and they have specific information, the provider is sending out details, for example, Carousel can actually put that text on the screen. So there's templates that are set up. We have customers that use various providers. I'd say most are supported or can do the post command. Raptor, Informacast, Alertus, Crisis Go, just naming a few that I know that our customers use. So that's kind of the technical side on the back end. It's sort of an API call, that post that's sent to our system. It's pre-configured with different, we call them bulletins in Carousel, that'll take over the screen with that emergency information.
So it's very nice because Carousel is an enterprise level solution. And so it can expand to a lot of areas. You could have 1,000 displays over multiple campuses worldwide. And so this integration to emergency notification systems is important because it can target those notifications where they're appropriate, right? So if you have a weather warning for an entire campus, that could go to all of the screens. If you have a fire in a specific building, you would want to have that alert notification in the building where there's the fire, but maybe not necessarily other buildings or certainly other campuses that aren't related to that specific emergency. So it's important to highlight that Carousel supports both alerts, which can be done manually and quickly to highlight, hey, we're not having classes on the 5th floor of the library today because it flooded last night during the storm. That's very different than a CAP integrated notification that happens, almost instantaneously. You're looking at a couple of seconds for the emergency notification system to be triggered to then take over all of the screens run by Carousel and display whatever the appropriate messaging is. So there are two different types, and the emergency side of it is key for most organizations that have already made that investment in a notification system.
Wonderful. So pivoting a little bit, both of you talked about how these alerts are really important. So why does targeting matter then for campus safety, especially in higher education?
Targeting, you mean like locations?
I believe audience. I think the targeting in terms of audience.
Sure. Well, when looking back at that idea of digital signage being a component of an organization's overall internal communication strategy, it highlights the need to target groups within an organization. We've been talking about emergency notifications, but there's also all types of information that digital signage can be utilized, particularly when you're talking about multiple zones that can show different information on the same channel. So you can highlight mental health services that are available, groups and programs that are out there for students to join, work groups for individuals to join. So you have the ability to utilize Carousel to target different groups within an organization, either in general or using different types of different displays in different locations. So we have clients that will brand their offices based upon the floor that they're on because those groups facilitate different aspects of the business on those floors. We'll have other groups where they'll have their content for the university on one side of the screen, but all the content for the business school on the right-hand side of the screen for the 10 displays in the business school. If I walk across the street to the architecture, same thing on the left, university-wide germane information, but now architecture information, meetings, upcoming events is on the right of the screens in the architecture school. So that level of targeting allows for continuous branding and control while also driving messaging to the constituents that are going to most need it and most benefit from having it.
Great. Adam, anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean, as it regards to emergency alerts or in regards to that, you'd set the priority, right? So we kind of talked about location. That's where my mind goes when we're talking about emergencies, right? And some people might even use the alert feature for a different thing. So they could have, an event or welcome directors, something that's, displayed for event or purpose that is pertinent to that specific location. And then if there's an emergency, you set that priority in Carousel. So a global alert can go out to thousands of screens, like John's saying, display within seconds, just to get that information out there based on the priority. So that has to do with audience a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it basically talks about how Carousel digital signage is very flexible. Like it's not just emergency alerts, it's about the customer's branding, and it's a whole package that you offer to your clients, which is wonderful to see. To wrap up, I just like to ask, is there anything you want to talk about that I have not asked you yet, but you want to spotlight?
Adam, anything in particular?
I would say one cool thing as it relates to alerts is if a customer uses Jamf as an MDM to manage their Apple devices, they can actually use Carousel with, integrates with that, and it can trigger a takeover called AirPlay interrupt. So that'll take over the screen. It can even power on the display. It's all set in the MDM, and even if the signage software isn't running, it'll start running and it'll show that emergency alert. So that's a great solution, especially in higher ed where they have those Apple TVs.
And if I'm not mistaken, Adam, I believe that AirPlay Interrupt may be unique to Carousel. It certainly was at one time and may continue to be at this moment. So it's something unique to the Carousel platform.
Great.
Additionally, I might highlight, just in the vein of a communication solution that's expanding beyond just the physical screens. Carousel does support licensing what I would call one-to-many. So if an individual group had several displays they wanted to use, but also had a number of Zoom or Teams rooms they wanted to light up, we have very effective tools for providing content to 1 to 5 to 1,000 rooms, all utilizing one individual license. So that foots to some of the development that has been ongoing with Carousel to allow it to move beyond just the physical screens. I know we're focused on emergency notifications here, but there are other tools within the software that can be exceedingly helpful in fulfilling that communications solution on behalf of an organization utilizing it.
Wow, again, thank you so much for explaining that and how Carousel Digital Signage is such a leader in providing that reliability, flexibility for higher education and other verticals too. Just want to say thank you again for joining us today, John and Adam.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Once again, this is Amla Reddy from Commercial Integrator, and do check out our websites for a spotlight on emergency communication, as well as our January-February edition of CI plus SSI for the Emergency Communications Deep Dive.